chain theorem, the relationship between the integration and differentiation and Muhammad Abdul Aziz, the relationship between differentiation and integration, and also uh, how can we find the area of the function, uh, area of the graph of the function, and it means area of the graph of the function and the x-axis. It means between this, the area between the graph of the function and the x-axis. So how can we find this? And we shall solve today the exercise 5.4. So we start today the net change theorem. Last time we have discussed net change theorem, so little bit revise today and move to the next. So the net change theorem in our differentiable function f of x. So this f of x is basically differentiable function. It means we can take its derivative. Its derivative is exist. Its derivative is possible over the interval, uh, closed interval AB. So here this is a closed interval. This is a closed interval AB. Uh, this net change theorem is the integral of its rate of change. Here basically if you see the fundamental theorem of calculus 1, there first we take integral from a to x, then we take derivative. So here it is opposite of this. It means first we take the derivative, then we take integration, then we take integration. So here if you see we have f dash of x dx. So it means first we are taking the differentiation, we are taking the derivatives, then we are taking the integration from a to x, then we are taking the integration from a to x. So uh, we have here, whenever we take the definite integral of f dash of x dx, so it is equal to f of b minus f of a. And if we relate it with the fundamental theorem of calculus 2, so there we have any continuous function f of x, small f of x, uh, as the integrand, as the integrand. But here we have f dash of x. It means the function which is differentiable, the derivative of the function, the derivative of the differentiable function. Okay, so here which type of the function, uh, which type of the function will be uh, here, like if we have to take the velocity. So the velocity function is basically, if we see velocity function v of t. So we have here, what is the velocity function? Velocity function is the rate of change of displacement, or uh, the rate of change of position function. The rate of change of position function, it means the derivative of displacement with respect to time, derivative of displacement with respect to time. Or also if we have acceleration, acceleration, acceleration also, it is the derivative of, it is the derivative of the velocity, it is the derivative of the velocity. So this type of the function will be here f dash of x. It means these are differentiable function. It must be some differentiable function. So it will must be some differentiable function. So if we have to if we have to link both differentiation and integration, then we have the following relationship. If we have to link between differentiation and integration, then we have the following relationship between these. So if we have seen the fundamental theorem of calculus 1, so what is in fundamental theorem of calculus 1? So there first we take integration. Here we f of t as any continuous function, and we take integration of it, integral of this function from a to x. Then we take differentiation, then we take derivative. So here in first fundamental theorem of calculus 1, first we take integration from a to x, then we take differentiation with respect to x. And what is the result? What is the result of this? The result is original function. It means the differentiation and integration both are cancelling, both are inverse of each other. If we get the original function, it means f of x. So here this d over dx and integral from a to x, so these are inverse of each other. So differentiation and integration, differentiation and integration both are inverse of each other. So the conclusion of the fundamental theorem of calculus tell us several things. Which things? So here, which things we conclude? That if we first if we first integrate the function f and then differentiate the result, if we first integrate the function f and then differentiate the result, we can get the function f back again. We get the function f back again. We get the function back again. Okay, and also from the net change theorem, if in a net change theorem, if we replace b by x and x by t in the net change theorem, in the formula of the net change theorem, what we get here? We get the following. It means integral from a to x f dash of t dt. So here f dash of t is basically d over dt. Here this f dash of t, here I write f dash of t. It means derivative of f with respect to t. Derivative of f with respect to t. df over dt. This is equal to df over dt. Okay. So if we take here integral, so a to x, then and we get the function. It means this integration and this differentiation are inverse of each other. So here if we get equal to f of x minus f of a, what this shows? That this shows that f of a is a constant of integration. When I asked you before, whenever we take integration we must have to add some constant. So here f of a is the constant of integration. Okay, and this integral cancel the derivative. This integral from a to x cancel the derivative which is with respect to t. So it is inverse of each other. When it can be cancelled, it means when the integral can cancel differential, because these are inverse of each other. If these are not inverse of each other, we cannot get the original function. So here we conclude from the fundamental theorem of calculus 1 and the rate of change net change theorem that if we take first derivative then integration, we get the original function. Or if we get first integration then derivative, we get the original function. So this shows that the process of the integration and differentiation are inverse of each other. This shows that the process of integration and differentiation are inverse of each other. Okay, this shows that the process of integration and differentiation are inverse of each other. Now we move to the area, total area. Okay, now we move to the area. Basically we have given a function. Suppose we have the following function: f of x is equal to x square minus 4. We have given a function and we have given some interval. We have given a function and we have given some interval. I again repeat, we have given a function and we have given some interval. So first of all, we will put this function is equal to 0, and we will find the points where the function is equal to 0. I again repeat, first of all, here, like here, uh, if we have here f of x is equal to x square, f of x is equal to x square minus 4. X square minus 4, what it is equal? It is equal to x plus 2, x plus 2 and x minus 2, x plus 2, x minus 2. Whenever we equate, this is equal to 0. So we get here x is equal to minus 2 and x is equal to 2. So if we see, we have given this interval, we have given, it means this interval is from minus 2 to 2. This interval is from minus 2 to 2. If we get another point, suppose we have here here 1 also, minus 2, 1 and 2. So then we divide this interval into two sub interval. To find the area, we divide the given interval into two sub intervals, and then we integrate the function over each sub interval. Then we integrate the function over each sub interval, over each subinterval. After that, we take the absolute value of the result of each subinterval. Then we sum of the absolute value of the integral. It is called the area. This is called the area. I again repeat, we have a function. We will put this function is equal to 0. We will get the points where the function is equal to 0. We will compare it with the given interval. If we have the same points, suppose we have here minus 2 to 2, these are two endpoints, so no need to divide this interval. Just you have to find the integral of the function over this interval. Then you have to take absolute value of the result of this integral. This is the area. But if we have, one point more, suppose here we have minus 2, 1 and 2. So then we divide the given interval minus 2 to 2 into two sub intervals. One is from minus 2 to 1 and the second is from 1 to 2. And then we find out, we evaluate the integral on each sub interval, then after finding the result of these, as the finding the result of these integrals, we take the absolute value of this result. We take the absolute value of this result. We take the absolute value of this result, and we sum of the absolute value of these is called the area. This is called the area. So here, if we see, we have the following example. We have the following function: f of x is equal to x square minus 4. F of x is equal to x square minus 4. This function is a mirror image of g of x is equal to 4 minus x, because if we put the graph of the function f of x in the front of the mirror, we get g of x, which is equal to 4 minus x square, so the graph of f of x is the following. uh, the graph of this function f of x is below the x-axis, but if we see the graph of g of x, it is up the x-axis, above the x-axis. So that is why it is a mirror image of each other, because here, if we put the graph of f of x in front of the mirror, we get the graph of g of x, and vice versa. If we put the graph of g of x in front of the mirror, we get the graph of f of x. So what we have to find, we have to solve two questions. We have to solve two questions. One is find or compute the definite integral over the interval from -2 to 2? This is the first question. Find or compute the definite integral over the interval -2 to 2. And second, find out the area between the graph and the x-axis over the interval -2 to 2. We have to find these two. So here first, simple. We have to integrate the definite integral. Already we have discussed the definite integral. Just see the function here. What is the function? X square minus 4. Is this continuous function? Student, x square minus 4. Is this continuous function over the interval -2 to 2? Yeah, this function is continuous or not? Is this function continuous? X square minus 4? Yes, because this function is a polynomial function and polynomial function is continuous everywhere. So it must be continuous on the interval -2 to 2. This function must be continuous on the interval from -2 to 2. So if we use the fundamental theorem of calculus 2, now what is antiderivative of x square minus 4? It is equal to x to raise power 3 minus 4x. X to raise power 3 minus 4x, which is equal to 8 by 3 because x to raise power 3. What is antiderivative of 4? It is equal to 4. So first we put upper limit. What is upper limit? Upper limit is 2. So 2 to raise power 3, it is equal to 8. So 8 divided by 3. Uh, then we put upper limit in the second part. It is equal to minus 4x. So whenever we put 2, so it is equal to minus 8. So 8 by 3 minus 8 minus. Now we put lower limit. So minus 2 to raise power 3, it is minus 8. Minus 8 divided by 3, minus 4 into minus 2, it is equal to plus 8. So we get here the following. Here if you see, we get a 16 divided by 3, 16, because 8 over 3 plus 8 over 3, 16 divided by 3 minus 16. Whenever we take least common multiple, what is the least common multiple? It is equal to 3. 16 minus 48. 16 minus 48. 16 minus 48, it is equal to 32. Minus 32. Minus 32 divided by 3. So you can see this is the here minus 32 divided by 3. Okay. Also if we have if we take the definite integral of g of x, so g of x, which is mirror image of f of x, so here it is 4 minus x square. Now what is antiderivative of 4 minus x square? What is antiderivative of 4 minus x square? Antiderivative of 4, it is equal to 4x. It is equal to 4x. And what is antiderivative of x square? It is equal to x to raise power 3 divided by 3. X to raise power 3 divided by 3. So whenever we put upper limit is 2. So it is equal to 8 minus 8 divided by 3. So we get here 8 minus 8 divided by 3. So 8 divided by 3 plus 8 minus 8 divided by 3. So we get here 16. Here this is equal to 16 minus 16. This is equal to 16 minus 16 divided by 3. So whenever we take least common multiple, we get here 48 minus 16 divided by 3. So which is equal to 32. Which is equal to 32. The following, which is equal to 32. Okay. So this is basically the integral of f of x, integral of g of x. Now if we want to find the area of this, here this graph of the function and the x-axis, so just take absolute value of this. So what is the absolute value of minus 32 divided by 3? Yes, any student, what is absolute value of minus 32 divided by 3? Student, what is absolute value? Yes, 32 divided by 3. So if we have to find this area, it is equal to 32 divided by 3. And also if we have to find this area, so this is also 32 divided by 2, 32 divided by 3, 32 divided by 3. So by this way we can find the area. Okay, so my question is, can area be negative? Is this possible that the area can be negative? Is this possible? Usama Naf, the area can be positive. Is this possible? No, the area cannot be. No, area. You heard? No, it is not possible because the area is always positive. The area is always positive. Okay. The next we have this function f of x is equal to sine x, and we have to find the area between the graph of this function and the x-axis. Okay, so between this and a graph of this. Okay, so if we draw the graph of the following function, we have the following graph. So add 0, sine is equal to 0. Add 0, sine is equal to 0. Add pi by 2. At this point, sine is maximum. At this point, sine is maximum. At this point, sine, what is this point? Pi. At pi, sine is also 0. And also 3 pi by 4. 3 pi by 2. 3 pi by 2. It means 270. Sine is minimum value, minus 1. And add sine, add 2 pi, again sine is equal to 0. So if we have to find the area between 0 to 2 pi, so we have to now check where the function sine is 0. So we have this function sine x, where this function sine x is equal to 0. Sine x, f of x is equal to sine x, where it is equal to 0. Sine x, where sine x is equal to 0, between the interval f x is equal to 0, sine 0, 0. At pi, here it is clear from the graph also. At pi, it means sine pi is also 0. At 2 pi, sine is also 0. At 2 pi, sine is also 0. So we have the zeros of f of x is equal to sine x are 3 points, 0, pi and 2 pi. Now we divide the given interval, which is equal to 0 to 2 pi, into two sub-intervals. Here we have given this interval 0 to 2 pi. Whenever we have to find the area, if we have to find the indefinite integral, no need to subdivide, the interval, but if you have to find the area, you must have to find the 0 of the function, and then 0 of the function, you must have to find the 0 of the function, and then you have to divide the interval into the sub interval. So here we divide the interval into two sub interval. It means from 0 to pi, one will be this sub interval, then at this point from pi to 2 pi. So we have the following two sub intervals. from 0 to pi, and pi to 2 pi. So we will find out the definite integral on these two subinterval, and we will take the absolute value of these integral. We will take the absolute value of these integral, and then we will sum of these absolute values. So we will get the area under the area between the graph of the function and the x-axis over this interval. So here first we solve simple. First we solve the definite integral of f of x over this. So here for this part, no need to divide the interval into sub intervals. For the second part, we must have to divide the interval into the sub intervals. We must have to divide the interval into the sub intervals. So here you can see, here for the first part, the definite integral of f of x, which is equal to sine x, is given by, it means we have sine x. Sine x is a continuous function between 0 to 2 pi. This function, which is equal to sine x, it is continuous over the interval 0 to 2 pi. So what is now antiderivative of sine x? Student, what is the antiderivative of sine x? Is there any student? Yes, it is equal to minus cosine x. It is equal to minus cosine x. Yes. So antiderivative of sine x is minus cosine x. Now we put upper limit. What is upper limit here? For this case, what is upper limit? 0 is upper limit or 2 pi is upper limit? 2 pi is upper limit. What is lower limit? Yes, what is lower limit? Lower limit is 0. So yes, lower. So first, whenever we evaluate the definite integral, first we put upper limit. So here minus, this minus is here outside. This minus is here outside. Now first we put upper limit. That is why here we have cosine 2 pi. That is why it is equal to cosine 2 pi minus minus lower limit. That is why we have cosine 0. So cosine 2 pi minus cosine 0. Cosine 2 pi minus cosine 0. So cosine 2 pi, it is equal to 1, and cosine 0, it is also 1. Okay, so 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1, cosine 2 pi 1, cosine 0 also 1. So 1 minus 1, we get 0. So basically the graph of the function above the x-axis is the same of the graph of the function below the x-axis. So now we find the area. Now we find the area. As I asked you now, whenever we have to find the area, first we have to find the zero of the function. So here we have sine x. So what are the zeros of sine x between the interval 0 to 2 pi? So there are 3 points. It means 0, pi and 2 pi. So 0, pi and 2 pi. These are the zeros of the function. So first of all, we divide the interval, given interval, from 0 to 2 pi and to two sub intervals. What are the sub intervals? Here from 0 to pi and pi to 2 pi. On here pi to 2 pi. So on these sub intervals, now we evaluate the definite integral of f of x over the first sub interval. So what is sine x? Here we have to evaluate the following: from 0 to pi sine x. So what is antiderivative of sine x? It is equal to minus it is equal to minus cosine x. It is equal to minus cosine x. So here you can see it is equal to minus cosine x from minus cosine x. Now from 0 to pi. Now whenever we put upper limit, what is cosine pi? Cosine pi is minus 1. So minus 1 minus 1. So which is equal to minus 2, and zara we have minus outside. So that is why we have plus 2. We have here plus 2. So minus 1 we have minus 2, and minus is outside, so that is why we have plus 2. So this is the definite integral of the function over the first subinterval. If we have to find the definite integral of the function over the second subinterval, then we have to use the second subinterval, which is equal to pi to 2 pi. So but the function will be the fixed. Function will be the fixed. It is equal to sine x. So what is now antiderivative of cosine x? It is minus cosine x. Now first we put upper limit for this sub interval. The upper limit is 2 pi and the lower limit is pi. But for the previous, if we see the previous interval, pi is as an upper limit and 0 is as a lower limit. So for this interval, pi is lower limit, 2 pi is upper limit. So whenever we put 2 pi in the antiderivative of sine x, it is equal to minus cosine. So minus is outside. So cosine 2 pi minus cosine pi. Cosine 2 pi minus cosine pi. So which is equal to 1 minus 1. So we get here 2 and 0 minus 1. So it is equal to minus 2. So these are the result of the definite integral over the subinterval, over the subintervals 0 to pi and pi to 2 pi. Now if we have to find the area, we just have to take their absolute value. So what is the absolute value of the 2? It is equal to 2. And what is the absolute value of minus 2? It is also 2. So 2 plus 2, whenever we add, so this is the area. This is area of the function over the interval 0 to 2 pi. Now here, what is the summary of finding the area? So as I asked you, to find the area between the graph of the function y is equal to f of x and the x-axis over the interval ab. Over the interval ab, what we have to do? We have to do three different steps. First of all, subdivide the interval ab at the 0 of f of x. It means we have to find first the 0 of the function, and each endpoint will be the 0 of f of x. Each endpoint will be the 0 of f of x. So first, this is first step. It means first of all we have to find f of x. First of all we have to find the 0 of f of x. Then we have to divide the given interval into subintervals. The second step, we have to integrate f over each subinterval. It means as we did in the previous, we did uh, the definite integral over 0 to pi, and the definite we have evaluated the definite integral on pi to 2 pi, on pi to 2 pi. The next is the final, the last step, and add the absolute values of the intervals. Add the absolute values of the interval. Add the absolute value. It means we have to take the absolute value of the integral, and we have to sum of this. So sum of the absolute value of the integrals are called are called the area. The sum of the absolute value of the integral is called the area. It is called the area. Now we have the example number 8. So if you see, what is the question? Find the area of the region between the x-axis and the graph of the function. So what is the graph of the function? X to raise power 3 minus x square minus 2x. X to raise power 3 minus x square minus 2x. I again repeat, x to raise power 3 minus x square minus 2x. And what is the interval? Interval is from minus 1 to 2. This is the interval from minus 1 to 2. Now if we take x as a common from the function, so what this will become? If we take x as a common, we get here x square minus x minus 2, x square minus x minus 2, x square minus x minus 2. So if we uh, by the factorization method, if we solve the x square minus x minus 2 in this way, it means x square, if we add minus 2 in it, so x square minus 2x plus x, it is again minus x, so minus 2. So this is same, it means x square minus x minus 2. So if we take x as a common, so we will get here x minus 2. Here if we take x as a common, we get x minus 2, and 1 as a common, so we get here x minus 2. And again if we take x minus 2 as a common, so the final this will become here x x x plus 1, x plus 1, and x minus 2, x minus 2. So this is function basically. Here you can see this is x plus 1, x minus 2. Whenever we put this is equal to 0, whenever we put this is equal to 0, whenever we put this is equal to 0, we get x is equal to 0, 3 points. So we get here 3 points. What are the points? X is equal to 0, x is equal to minus 1, and x is equal to 2. So we have now 3 points. So it means we must have to divide the given interval minus 1 to 2 into two subintervals. In the first subinterval, what will be the first subinterval? Minus 1 to 0. Minus 1 to 0. And the second subinterval will be 0 to 2. And the second subinterval will be 0 to 2. And the second subinterval will be 0 to 2. So here you can see we have these two subintervals, minus 1 to 0 and 0 to 2. 0 to 2. Now we evaluate the integral over the first subinterval, minus 1 to 0. So whenever we evaluate this, x to raise power 3 minus x square minus 2x. So what is now antiderivative of x to raise power 3? It is equal to x to raise power 4 divided by 4. What is antiderivative of x square? It is equal to x to raise power 3 divided by 3 minus x square, because antiderivative of 2x, it is equal to minus x square. Now whenever we put upper limit is 0, because all uh, part has x. So whenever we put 0, so everything will become 0. So 0 minus, then we put lower limit minus 1. So whenever we put minus 1, so we get here 1 by 4 plus 1 by 3 minus 1, which is equal to 5 divided by 12, which is equal to 5 divided by 12. Now we compute the definite integral of f of x over the second subinterval. What is second subinterval? It is equal to 0 to 2. So whenever we evaluate this, again the antiderivative of the function is the same, which is equal to x to raise power 4 minus x to raise power 3 divided by 3 minus x square. First of all, we put upper limit, which is equal to 2. So whenever we put this upper limit, so 2 to raise power 4, it is equal to 16. 16 divided by 4, it is equal to 8. 2 to raise power 3, it is equal to 8. 8 divided by 3. And 2 square, it is equal to 4. 2 square, it is equal to 4. So that is why 4 minus 8 divided by 3 minus 4. The answer is minus 8 divided by 3. 8 divided by 3. So these are the following is the result of the integral. Following is the result of the integral. Following is the result of the definite integral of the function over the subinterval. Followings are the result of the definite integrals over the subinterval. Now we take the absolute value of this. So absolute value of 5 divided by 12, it is equal to 5 divided by 12. What is absolute value of minus 8 divided by 3? It is equal to plus 8 divided by 3. Okay, so the final answer of this, whenever we take least common multiple, so least common multiple is 12. So 5 plus 4 are 8, it is equal to 32. So 5 plus 32, it is equal to 37 divided by 12. So this is the answer. Basically this is the answer. So now we move to the exercise 5.4. 5.4. Now I ask you the question, then you have to solve. Uh, question number 7. Question number 7. Yes. So what is the function here, student? And how can we solve this definite integral? Which which rule we will use? And question number 7, which rule we will use? And question number 7, can we solve it by the fundamental theorem of calculus 2? Student, did you got my point? So here we have the function. Here we have the function. What is the function? X square plus square root 2, square root x. X square plus square root x. X square. So is this continuous function? Yes, it is a continuous function. X square plus square root x. So it is a continuous function. It is a continuous function. So what is now antiderivative of x square? Student, are you here? No, no, little bit. X to raise, we increase one in power, divide the whole power. So what is the antiderivative of x here? We here question number 7. We increase 1 in the power, divide the whole power. So what is here? X 2 plus 1, 3 divided by 3. So this will be x to raise power. Here x to raise power, we have, yes, divided by 3. Now what is the value of the square root? What is the value of the jazar? Value of the jazar. Square root is equal to power 1 by 2. Yes. Uh, yes, 1 by 2 square root of x. It means x power 1 over 2. X power 1 over 2. So whenever we take its antiderivative. We increase 1 in the power, divide the whole power. So 1 by 2 plus 1, how much? 1 by 2 plus 1. Yes, 3 divided by 2. 3 divided by 2. Yes. So x power 3 divided by 2 divided by 3 divided by 2. So it will be equal to 2 divided by 3. 2 divided by 3 x power x power 3 divided by 2. Yes. Yes, this is correct. Here like this. 2 divided by 3 x power 3 divided by 2. So what is now upper limit? So 1 power here. I solve this. So here the answer of this, whenever we put x power, so this is equal to x power 3 divided by 3, x power 3 divided by 3 plus x power 1 over 2, it means 3 over 2 divided by 3 over 2, which is equal to 2 by 3, which is equal to 2 by 3. So whenever we put upper limit, it is equal to 1, lower limit it is equal to 0. So 1 by 3, because 1 power 3 it is equal to 1. So 1 by 3 plus 2 by 3, 2 by 3 it is equal to 1, it is equal to 1. So 1 by 3 plus 2 by 3 it is equal to 1. 1 by 3 plus 2 by 3 it is equal to 1. Okay. Now solve question number 11. Question number 11. What is antiderivative of cosec theta and cotangent theta? What is antiderivative of cosec theta and cotangent theta? Yes. What is antiderivative of cosec theta and cotangent theta? Okay. If I ask you what is derivative of cosec theta? If I ask you what is derivative of cosec theta? So derivative of cosec theta is equal to minus cosec theta cotangent theta. Now what is antiderivative of cosec theta cotangent theta? It is equal to minus cosec theta. It is equal to minus cosec theta. Okay, minus cosec. This is antiderivative of cosec theta and cotangent theta. Okay, so minus cosec theta. The antiderivative of cosec theta and cotangent theta, it is equal to minus cosec theta. Now what is cosec theta? The definition of cosec theta, it is equal to 1 divided by sine theta. It is equal to 1 divided by sine theta. So here we have minus, I write on the top here. Okay, so we get here minus cosec theta, here cosec theta, we get here minus cosec theta. So here we have pi by 4, pi by 4 it is lower limit, pi by 4, and upper limit is 3 pi by 4, 3 pi by 4. So 3 pi by 4 it is 135 degree, 135 degree. So here cosec is equal to 1 over sine. So this minus it exists outside. So it is equal to 1 over, first we put upper limit cosec theta, cosec 3 pi by 4, 3 pi by 4 minus 1 divided by cosec pi by 4. pi by 4. So here cosec pi by 4. What is cosec pi by 4? Cosec pi by 4. Sorry, 1 over sine. Sorry. Here we have small mistake. Minus cosec. Here this is the antiderivative. Minus cosec theta and upper limit is 3 pi by 4. 3 pi by 4 and lower limit is pi by 4. Lower limit is pi by 4. Okay. So I write here pi by 4. Pi by 4. So whenever we put upper limit, then lower limit, because cosec is equal to 1 over sine. So minus this minus. So 1 over sine. What is 1 over sine? It is equal to 1 over sine, because cosec is equal to 1 over sine. So 3 pi by 4, 3 pi by 4 minus 1 over sine pi by 4. Pi by 4. So sine pi by 4, it is equal to 1 over square root 2. So this is equal to minus, here we have 1 divided by square root 2, because sine pi by 4 or sine 3 pi by 4, both values are equal. So minus 1 divided by square root 2. So this is equal to 0. This is equal to 0. This is equal to 0. Now uh, if we have to solve, okay, we have to find the area. Now we want to find the area. Question number 49. What is the function? What is the here function? Function is x to the power 3 minus 3x square plus 2. What is the interval? Interval is 0 to 2. So whenever we take x as a common, so what this will becomes? This will becomes x square minus 3x plus 2. Okay, we have this thing, x into x square minus 3x plus 2. So whenever we factorize this x square, so we can write x square minus 3x plus 2, it is equal to, what is this? It is equal to x square. Yes, but how can we get this? How can we get this? Because x square, we can write here minus 2x, here minus x and plus 2, because minus 3x, it is equal to minus 2x minus x, it is equal to minus 3x. So we take common x as a common. So whenever we take x as a common, so this will become x minus 2. Here minus 1 as a common, so it is equal to x minus 2. So what we get here? We get here x minus 1, x minus 2. So this is equal to, I write here, the 0 of this, the 0 here, the 0 of this function, it is equal to 0, 1 and 2. So but here we have the interval 0 to 2. So how many sub interval? How many sub interval we can create? Badr Abdullah Alamudi. How many? We have these three zeros, 0, 1 and 2. So two sub intervals. Here we have from where to where? 0 to 1. It will be one sub interval, and from 1 to, yes, Asan, from 1 to 2. Yes, you are correct, Badr. From 1 to 2. So we have these two sub interval. So whenever we have to find the area, what we will do? we will find the definite integral of the function. So what is definite integral? It will becomes x to raise power 4 divided by 4 minus x to raise power 3 plus x square. So x square first on the on this sub interval 0 to 1. So whenever we put this, we get here 1 by 4. This is equal to 1 by 4 minus 1 plus 1. So it is the answer of this is equal to 1 by 4. So this is 1 by 4. It means uh, the definite integral of f of x over the subinterval 0 to 1, over the subinterval 0 to 1, it is equal to 1 by 4. Now if we have to find the definite integral over the subinterval 1 to 2, now we find, so what this will becomes here, this will be here question number 49, this will becomes x power 4 divided by 4 minus x to raise power 3 divided by nothing plus x square. So now upper limit is upper limit is 2 and lower limit is 1. So whenever we take upper limit, so 2 to raise power 4, it is equal to 16 divided by 4, which is equal to 4 minus 2 to raise power 3, it is equal to 8 plus 4 minus, now after that this is the whole minus 1 by 4 minus 1 plus 1. Okay, so we get here 4 minus 8 plus 8 plus 8, so it is equal to 0. So minus, yes, so this is equal to minus 1 by 4, no, minus 1 by 4. So yes, now for here I asked you this the integral over the first subinterval, it is equal to 1 by 4. The integral at the second subinterval, it is equal to minus 1 by 4. So whenever we have to take the absolute value of this, so absolute value of 1 by 4, 1 by 4. So absolute value of minus 1 by 4, it is positive 1 by 4. So whenever we add this, so we get here 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4. This is the area basically. This is area. So which it is equal to 1 by 2. This is equal to 1 by 2. Yes. Talal Chaudhary, Talal Hamadi, you are correct. And Badr Abdullah, yes, you are also correct. So it is equal to 1 by 2. It is equal to 1 by 2. Okay. If I ask you, solve question number 50. Can you solve this question? Okay, okay. I asked you, what is the question? Question is 51. What is the function? Function y is equal to 1 plus cosine x. Yes, 1 plus cosine x. 1 plus cosine x. Now what is the interval? From 0 to pi. From 0 to pi. Yes, find the area. Find the area of this. Or anyone. Okay, I asked you any question from 47 to 51. Any question? Yes. Yes, Badr Abdullah. Any question you can solve. 47, 48, 49 already I have done. 50 and 51. So leave question number 49. Solve anyone the question. So 47, student. So what are the zeros of? Okay, brother, solve this question. What are the zeros of the function? What are the zeros of the function? Yes, 47, 47. So here, what are the zeros of f of x? So here, for this case, we have the following: x whenever we take common, so minus x minus 2. So it means if we take minus as a common, so minus x outside, x plus 2. So we have just 2 points. One is 0 and one is here x is equal to 0 and x is equal to minus 2. Yes. So we have this thing: x is equal to 0, x is equal to minus 2. Okay. So the interval will become from here. Okay, solve this. And also minus 3, sorry, this will becomes, the following will become the interval. So minus 3 to minus 1, then minus 2 to 0, then 0 to 2, 3 intervals. So here I make the following: this will becomes from minus 3 to minus 2. This will be the first sub interval, and minus 2 to 0. This will become the second sub interval. From 0 to 2, this will be the third sub interval. So you have to evaluate, you have to solve the integral over these sub interval, and you have to find the value. Yes, give me the value of, how can we find? uh, okay, what is antiderivative of the function over the first sub interval, minus 3 to minus 2? What will be the definite integral? Okay, any question from 5.4? Any question? Okay, easy question I ask you. Solve question number 2. Solve question number 2. Give me the answer of this by using the fundamental theorem of calculus 2. Yes, solve question number 2. Fundamental theorem of calculus 2. Okay, I am waiting. I am waiting, brother. And other student also. Okay. So, okay, solve question number 2 and give me the answer of this. What is the answer of question number 2? First, what is antiderivative of the function? Simple. What is antiderivative of x square? X power 3 divided by 3. Okay, this is the, but my question is, what is antiderivative of the function? Simple. What is antiderivative of x square? What is antiderivative of 2? What is antiderivative of 3? So what is antiderivative of x square? Antiderivative, x power 3 divided by, yes, x power 3, uh, x power 3 divided by 3, x power 3 divided by 3, minus, what is anti, yes, this one. So what is antiderivative of minus 2x? So it is equal to, what is antiderivative of minus 2x? No, not, yes, and leave the answer, right, myself. Just I'm asking, what is antiderivative of minus 2x? Antiderivative of minus 2x, not 0. Yes, minus x square. Minus x square. What is antiderivative of 3? 3x. So whenever we put upper limit is 1. Upper limit in x power 3 divided by 3 minus x square and plus 3x. So whenever we put upper limit, what is the answer of the upper limit? 1 by 3 minus 1 plus 3. Yes. This is equal to 1 by 3 plus 2. Yes, 7 divided by 3. Yes, correct. Now whenever we put lower limit, yes, right, always whenever we put minus 1 by 3 uh, minus 1, yes, so minus 3, yes, so it is equal to minus 1 by 3 minus 2. So here what is the answer of the minus 4 uh, minus 13 again it is minus 1 over 3 minus 4. So minus 12 minus 13 divided by 3. Raed Abdul Aziz. I think minus 13 divided by 3. Minus because minus 1 by 3 minus 4. So minus 12 minus 1 it is equal to minus 13. Minus 13 divided by 3. So what is now? Minus 13 divided by 3 and 7, 7 divided by 3 plus 13 divided by 3. What is the answer? 7 divided by 3 plus 13, 20 divided by 3. This should be the answer of question number 2. This should be the answer of question number. You got my point? Okay. So if we have to solve question number 4, same like that, x power 299. Whenever we add in the 1 in the power, so this will becomes x power 300. X power 300. So if we have x power 300 divided by 300, so it is equal to 1 over 300 x power 300. Whenever we put upper limit 1 power 300, it is equal to 1 minus 1 power 300, it is also 1. So what we get here? The answer of question number 4. How can we solve question number 4? Yes, 1 over 300, no. Uh, whether it is 0, it should be 0 because 1 by 300, 1 power, yes, x power 300 divided by 300. Yes, this is the antiderivative. Now we put upper limit is 1. So the answer will becomes 1 divided by 300 minus. Now minus 1 power 300, it is 1. So it is again 1 divided by 300. So the final answer will becomes, I think, 0. The final answer will becomes, I think, 0. Okay. If we have to solve question number 8, yes, I think it is equal to 0. Yes, question number 8. Can we you solve question number 8? X power minus 6 divided by um, just check, minus 6 plus 1. So minus 1 by 2 minus 1 x power minus 1 by minus 1 by 5. Osama, x power minus 1 by 5. Yes. So divided by minus 1 by 5. So divide it means minus 5 x power minus 1 by 5. Minus 5 x power minus 1 by 5. You got my point? Minus 5 x power minus 1 by 5. Understand? So whenever we put upper limit, then lower limit, so we can get the answer. Okay. So here, okay, okay. Yes, divided by. So this will be equal to 5 minus 5, because in the denominator we have minus 1 over 5. So minus will go outside. So this will become minus 5 x power minus 1 divided by 5. The following, this one, minus 5, because in the denominator we have minus 1 over 5, so it will goes on the top. So minus 5 x power minus 1 over 5. Okay, student. So try this exercise. So inshallah, see you in the next class. Okay. If you have any question, you can ask. If you have any question, you can ask now. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. So inshallah, see you in the next class. Okay.